When people think about investing success, they usually think about one thing first. What should I invest in? What's the best stock? What's the best fund? What's the best asset class? What should I buy now? And I understand why that becomes the focus, because that's the most visible part of investing. It's the part people talk about, it's the part people debate, it's the part people market. But what people think drives investing success is usually the smallest part of the equation. That, I think, is one of the biggest misunderstandings in investing. Because many people spend most of their time trying to choose and chase the right investment while barely thinking about the things that actually drive most of the outcome. And this is where the 94% rule comes in. 94% of investing success comes from two things most people barely think about. The first is savings discipline. The second is investment method. Now, before anyone gets distracted by the number, let me be clear. The point here is not to turn this into a mathematical lecture. The point is to correct the way people think. Because the default belief is usually this: if I can just pick the right investment, I'll be fine. But in real life, that is very often backwards. In real life, investing success is driven far more by what happens repeatedly than by what is chosen once. Let's start with the first one: savings discipline. Because compounding only works on money that's actually invested. That sounds very simple, but it is also one of the most neglected truths in investing. People want better returns. They want better performing assets. They want to find a superior investment. But before portfolio performance, there must first be capital consistently entering the system. And that is where many people underestimate the importance of saving behavior. It's not enough to invest once in a while. It's not enough to invest only when there's extra cash. It's not enough to get excited about investing during good periods and then lose momentum when life becomes busy or uncertain. A person with modest returns but strong savings discipline can often do better than a person with better picks but weak consistency. Because what compounds is not intention. What compounds is money that is regularly committed over time. And that is why high income by itself is not the answer. High income creates capacity, but capacity is only potential. It becomes progress only when it is consistently converted into invested capital. So the first driver of investing success is not brilliance in selection. It is disciplined participation in the investment markets. Then comes the second part: investment method. Because once money is entering the system consistently, the next question becomes: what governs the process? What tells you how to invest? What tells you how to stay invested? What tells you what to do when markets become uncomfortable? What tells you how to manage risk? What stops you from changing direction every time the environment changes? That is what method is for. A method is what turns investing from occasional action into a repeatable process. It governs behavior. It governs consistency. It governs risk. It governs sustainability. And this matters because compounding is not just about return. It's also about durability. Because a method may look good when conditions are easy. Many things look good when conditions are easy, right? But the real test is whether the approach still holds together when markets become stressful, when headlines become noisy, when confidence disappears, or when life itself becomes messy. It's not enough to invest. You need an approach that is durable enough to survive real life and real markets. That is why method matters so much. Because a person does not benefit from compounding simply because compounding exists. A person benefits from compounding only if they can stay with a sound process long enough for it to work. Now, does asset choice matter? Of course it does. This is not an argument that investment selection is irrelevant. It's an argument that many people exaggerate its importance. Because people often become obsessed with finding the best investment while paying much less attention to whether they are saving consistently or whether their process actually makes sense. So they optimize the visible detail and neglect the entire structural foundation. And that's where the distortion happens. The real question isn't what you invest in. It's whether you are saving consistently and whether your method actually works. That is the deeper architecture of investing success. Not just what you chose once, but what you're able to do repeatedly. Not just whether you found something attractive, but whether your investing life, your investing rhythm is built on something durable. And I think this is exactly why many intelligent professionals get this wrong. Because capable people often assume that better analysis, better research, or better selection will solve the investing problem. So they spend more time searching for opportunities. They compare more products, they read more market opinions, they gather more information, they try to identify the better asset. But often the search for the right investment becomes a distraction from building the right investing process. And that is a very important distinction. Because if investing is treated mainly as a selection problem, then the real drivers of success remain underdeveloped. Saving discipline remains weak. Method remains vague. Behavior remains reactive. And yet the person still feels productive because they're busy choosing. That is why this philosophy matters. It redirects attention away from what's most exciting and towards what is most effective. So let me ask you something. Which do you think matters more? Picking the right investment or having the right method? Let me know in the comments, because how you answer that question says a lot about how you currently think about investing. The reason this matters is simple. Investing success is driven far more by what happens repeatedly than by what is chosen once. Savings discipline creates the fuel. Method determines whether that fuel turns into long-term progress. And people who focus only on picks usually miss the real architecture of investing success. So the most important question in investing is not, what should I buy? It is, am I saving consistently? And does my method actually work? That is the shift. And once that shift happens, the next question becomes very important. Do most investors actually have a strategy at all? I'm Juan Casas of Beacon Wealth Advisory. I'll see you in the next episode.